There's a moment that many people eventually experience in difficult relationships. It's the moment you stop explaining yourself. And sometimes when that happens, the other person reacts in a way that surprises you or even escalates the conflict. Why empathetic people keep explaining. Many people end up in these dynamics are thoughtful people. They want to allow others to have the opportunity to understand their viewpoint and to be able to maybe empathize or feel like they understand where they're coming from. Because for empathetic people, a connection is really, really important. And it's not a sense of me versus you, it's a sense of us almost kind of collaborating together and us reaching a common understanding, or to steal a legal term, a meeting of the minds. They are often thoughtful, meaning they are considerate of other people's feelings. So they're not wanting to leave someone out or neglect someone's viewpoint. They are consensus builders, meaning they like to have consensus and be able to come to a joint resolution if one is possible. Additionally, they are also conflict averse, which could potentially put them in the crosshairs of someone who may actually be conflict hungry, because there are people who thrive on drama and thrive on conflict in a way that others avoid it. And so if they sense that there is a fear of conflict, it may even motivate them to push even harder. Empathetic people often assume that if they can explain things clearly enough, the other person will understand their intentions and potentially see their heart. Given the fact that they are an empathetic person, they can put themselves in the places of other people and think about somebody else, how somebody else may feel or react to a certain situation. That is a hidden strength, a hidden skill. Not a lot of people possess that potentially, depending on their background and things like that they've learned. But there's also people who directly target empathetic people. For instance, narcissistic people, again, people searching for conflict or drama or any sort of thing to escalate a situation. But sometimes the other person isn't seeking clarity. So they're really not coming to the discussion or to the table with good intentions. And ultimately, good intentions can determine how that relationship or how that discussion is going to go. Is it going to be a meaningful discussion, or is it going to be a discussion that is ultimately going to frustrate the empathetic person and be a game for the person who isn't really coming with clean hands, so to speak, or with an intention to listen to someone's actual point of view? Maybe they're coming just to cause drama or have fun in some way. They're seeking control over a narrative rather than a discussion or an honest conversation. The hidden dynamic. There are some personalities, for instance, narcissists, people who like to constantly get dopamine hits from causing conflict and frustrating people, and bully types ultimately. Narcissistic people, people who are really big into maintaining a level of control over other people, and their intentions are not always clear. Sometimes they can mask those intentions depending on how good they are at manipulating others or trying to use manipulative tactics, for instance, projection. I feel like you're really not coming to the table with an honest assessment of actually what's going on. So I really question your motives, is what they would say to the person who actually has the clear intent to work through something or to have an honest, open discussion without games or without manipulation or without gaslighting or any of the other dirty tactics that people use. And so ultimately, it can be a game of a game, of a game, of a game. Because ultimately, some people are doing things they're doing for their own entertainment, to frustrate others, for whatever reason they may have. When someone keeps you explaining yourself, they keep you participating in a conversation where the rules keep changing, which you may be aware of, called moving the goalpost. So essentially they may say to you, this is our goal of this conversation. We are going to figure out a solution for X, Y, Z. So you're thinking, okay, this is what we're discussing. And then all of a sudden the person then says, well, you know what, actually, I don't think we're going to talk about X, Y, Z. I think we're actually going to talk about your behavior, because I feel like you're really not serious about this conversation. And I feel like you look at this like it's a joke, or there's something funny about it, and you're not being completely honest with me, and I want to understand and know why. And it's so easy for people who are looking to keep you engaged and keep you busy and keep you overwhelmed and bogged down, that they just keep kind of pushing the goalpost to another direction. So it would be natural in that scenario to be like, well, we were talking about X, Y, Z. Now, all of a sudden, we're going to this other topic about my behavior. What does my behavior have to do with this conversation? We were supposed to have a mutual, honest conversation in which we both were a part of, that was fair, that was reasonable, that was what we both agreed to talk about. And now you're saying this conversation was called because my behavior is in question? And also, you think about it, if we look at it from a legal perspective, it's almost like a courtroom where the evidence never matters because the verdict was already decided. Which, who wants to go to court for something that's already been decided? It's really not fair. It's really not a scenario where the person was playing with reasonable expectations. They literally were being a person who was keeping the actual goal of the meeting secret for their own gain, for whatever reason, for fun, or to disrupt or maybe humiliate or embarrass someone. So what happens when you stop? This is the turning point. Sometimes when explanations stop, the other person will escalate. This may potentially mean abusive behavior, throwing things, yelling, screaming, having a tantrum, cursing, any number of maladaptive behaviors that are not conducive to an honest, open conversation, or they recruit others. This particular person came with a lot of baggage, and I'm not sure that they really fully understand what was required at this meeting, but they clearly failed. And I have serious questions as to whether they can handle this assignment. I have serious questions as to their honesty, as to their work ethic, as to their qualifications. Maybe we should just let them go. Or they attempt to provoke a reaction that can make you appear unhinged because they've been goading you and poking you, kind of like poking the bear, so to speak. And they want to do anything they can to undermine you and escalate and get the sense of dopamine or the thrill that they're after for whatever reason. Because silence interrupts the cycle. And why silence feels uncomfortable. For many people, silence feels rude. Like you're not listening, you're not answering someone who's asking you a question. But sometimes silence is the one thing that can kind of put a halt to the rapid fire succession of questions and keep you in a scenario where you have a little bit of peace and calm to be able to think through your answer. And oftentimes that will trigger the person to essentially want to put you on the spot. Well, what is it? Why aren't you answering? Why are you so quiet? Like, what is going on? Like, do you not have an answer? Do you not know? And it's just like a rapid fire peppering of questions. And also a lot of people think, if somebody's talking, I need to respond. I need to respond to show, solidarity, to have the back and forth exchange of ideas. But if somebody is not playing fairly or not with the best of intentions, it can be really difficult to make any headway with someone who is bent on having their way and their way only, and trying to humiliate or being unfair to the person who's on the other side of their discussion. But sometimes silence is simply refusing to participate in a narrative that was never going to be fair, was never going to be balanced, was never going to be an honest, thorough discussion that you initially signed up for. So in closing, sometimes peace begins the moment we realize we don't need to explain ourselves to someone who already decided who we are. Thank you for tuning in to Recovering Perfectionist Mama, Grace in Progress. And I hope that this video gave you a little bit of insight as far as explaining and how it can actually work in somewhat formal situations or even in informal situations. When people don't come to the table with pure, true motives like you yourself may have when you are engaging in a conversation with someone and expecting to exchange realistic, honest, thoughtful ideas rather than playing games. Thank you for tuning in, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. And the fact that you are supporting our channel means a lot to me, and I appreciate each and every one of you. Hope you have a great day. Bye-bye.